There we go.
Okay, here we go.
We had a,
Look at that, we're all there.
a projector with slides.
Yeah, the old mimeograph machine. Okay, the Citizen Involvement Committee meeting for Monday, May 1st, 2023 is now called to order. And Dennis, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Kadima, Linda,
Present.
I'm present. Caulfield, Dan,
Here.
Roger, a new guest. Elyville, Carla,
Here.
and we have Dee Dee on Zoom. Oh, but she's not speaking. Hillendale, Josh,
Here.
Sarah,
Here.
McLaughlin, Denise,
Here.
and Will,
Yep. Here.
and Park Place, Steve,
Here.
and Bob.
Here.
And we have Emily on Zoom. I see her.
Here.
Good. I believe that's it.
And Mayor McGriff is here for
And
Commissioner
Mayor
Marlowe.
Yep, I'm here for, Commissioner Morrow because I'm the alternate, and he said he sends his apologies.
Okay, I don't see Victoria Meinig with the Chamber of Commerce, so she might have slipped out of our radar or something. So the first presenter tonight will be James Graham from the Oregon City Economic Development.
Just gotta share screen there.
He's the manager of that
And then find.
program.
There's one change. No, that one you read. Yep. And then just use slideshow. It's like,
Good evening, members of the Citizen Involvement Committee. I'm James Graham, Economic Development Manager for Oregon City. It's my pleasure to be with you today because anytime I get an opportunity to talk about economic development, I can talk for hours, so I hope you're all comfortable. What we're going to talk about tonight are the programs and initiatives of the Economic Development Department. And we have implemented a full-blown strategy on behalf of this city. And so with that, I will begin with actually a definition. Next slide, please. A definition of economic development, because we're a firm believer that you have to define what you do so that you know you're doing it. Thank you. So economic development, we view it as a strategic collaborative process that supports investment and systemically does so in the name of creating jobs, broadening the tax base, and creating a quality of life for people. Why else would you do it? Back in the day, and I say back in the day, in the early 80s, I've been doing this business for 34 years. I've done it in 16 cities and 8 states. And back in the 80s, we used to do something called a smokestack chasing, where you steal companies from your colleagues, from one company to the next. And that is old-fashioned, and I'm glad it doesn't exist anymore because it certainly created bad feelings between communities. Now economic development is more collaborative. It's more systemic. It's broad-based, and there's a lot to it. And most people, when they define economic development, they define it what it's supposed to do instead of what it is. And so I wanted to put this definition up because that's a definition we have been operating under for 34 years. So next slide, please. Oh, I can do it. I'm accustomed to it.
We give you a lot of power here.
You can see that. I'm not used to that. So the topics I want to discuss during this brief discussion with you is you can't do economic development in a vacuum. You got to recognize the state of the nation. You've got to understand what's going on in the national level, the state level, the county, and the city. Because everything that's happening there impacts you. The world is much smaller than it used to be. So therefore, you're not as isolated as you think you are from the rest of the nation, county, state, and others. The major themes we like to discuss with you with regard to our strategy and, of course, programs and initiatives. So, in terms of the economy, just a brief discussion about the gross domestic product, inflation, wages, unemployment, what's going on in the nation, what's going on in our state, what's going on in our county, and what's going on in this city. And then we'll talk about the major themes and programs, as I mentioned. The gross domestic product of the country is the value of all goods and services produced in this country. And in the first quarter of 2023, we had a 1.1% increase. Now that's a decrease from the last quarter, the fourth quarter of 2022. The country is slowly slowing down. And that is the intention of the Federal Reserve and others in order to address inflation. The gross domestic product for the state is 5.6% between the third and fourth quarter of last year and this year. And a lot of us don't realize that Oregon is the 25th richest state by gross domestic product. We're right in the middle. So a lot of the goods and services we produce here in this state are considered valuable, and it contributes a great deal to the nation. With regard to inflation, if you take a look at the United States inflation, from 2021 to 2023, you can see it's coming down. And once again, that's the intent of the Federal Reserve. And their target for inflation is 2.0%. For the western states, which includes Oregon, our unemployment rate, our inflation rate, it was actually way down in 2021 at 2.4%, went way up in 2022, and then back down at 5.1%. And it is projected to continue to slowly go down. But it's also projected it will take the rest of this year before inflation is under control. Unemployment. The United States unemployment rate as of 2021 is, as you can see, at 5.3%, and it's steadily gone, well, it actually has gone down in 2022, and it went slightly up with 4.3%. Unemployment in Oregon has been also a little up and down. And we are resting at 4.7% as of 2023, March of 2023. Clackamas County, it had a high point at 6.6% in 2021, and it's gone down to 3.8% as of March of 2023. The major focus for Oregon City in terms of economic development strategy is on small business, workforce shortages, internet connectivity, business retention, attraction, and engaging investors all over the city. Yeah. We have a lot going on in economic development. Our business and attraction program has resulted in attracting 4 companies to Oregon City. And I want to highlight...
Over what period of time?
Over the period of 2 years. And over the period of 2 years, we have retained 5 companies in this city. In our work, it is one of the elements of our work, one of the characteristics of our work is that a lot of the things that we talk about can't be discussed publicly, because the private sector is kind of sensitive about that kind of thing. So we tell them that you can tell us anything, we'll learn what we can, we will be confidential, so they will talk to us. But it's just one of the natures. It's the nature of the beast. We simply can't sort of spread the word all over the place about competitors, and that's ill-advised. So it's frustrating because I'd like to stand on top of the mountain and tell you everything, but unfortunately, there are situations we can't. small business loans, we've just launched a number of programs to help small businesses. One of those programs, we call it the Entrepreneurial Opportunity Loan Program. And that program it provides loans to startups. And a lot of individuals, a lot of banks and others shy away from startups because they view them as very risky. But we don't view them as risky. You have to grow your business base. And what better way to do that is with individuals who want to start their own business. So the Entrepreneurial Opportunity Loan Program provides loans to startups at 0.5% interest. The best game in town. And they don't pay anything for that until after 12 months. We call it patient money, so that they can have the opportunity to use funds for their operation, as opposed to going the traditional route, getting a loan, and having almost to pay it back immediately over time. Workforce development is extremely important, and Talent Ready is what that means. Talent Ready is a new program that helps young people between the ages of 15 to 35 with not only identifying opportunities, not only with training, but also with mental health. Mental health is one of the unique things about this program, where we have engaged the mental health community to counsel people about their own self-awareness while they're working. Because a lot of individuals, like a lot of us, we accept positions and sometimes we don't stay because we don't have a good self-awareness of ourselves in those jobs. And there are obstacles of being unemployed: alcoholism, drugs, lack of training, and a number of other barriers that keep one from being employed. So our young people have to deal with a whole lot. I live in Oregon City, I see a lot. And we are blessed with having so many young people in this community. But I'm concerned that if we don't work with them and work with the companies to retain them, we very may lose them. And of course you would, because they would go where the opportunities are. And they would go and they would move with their families and move away from relatives. And you really don't want that. You want to keep your young people with you as long as you possibly can, because they are the future workforce of this community. Childcare. Who would have ever thought that childcare would be an economic development issue? And it is. It keeps a lot of people from working.
Yeah, it does.
And that is extremely important. So therefore, we're working with companies to develop a childcare initiative in order to encourage others to go to work. Ombudsman program. In order to create a more business-friendly environment, it is important, we feel, that individuals who want to invest in this community, that want to start businesses or expand their businesses or relocate their businesses, need to have an open line of communication with city government. And there has to be proactive ways of communicating with investors before they do things, instead of doing something and then asking for forgiveness later. So therefore, this program is designed to work with investors on being educated on our codes, on the way we do things, so that they're not, so they don't do things that cost them money and require them to do it all over again. It's important that we communicate with them. City procurement, small businesses. The city government buys over $10 million of goods and services. It's high time that we open up city government to give those small businesses an opportunity to purchase from the city goods and services. And that's, once again, another new market for many of them, because many of them have never done business with the city government before. And you certainly want to get away from the habit of just dealing with the same people day in, day out, year in, and year out, because it's comfortable. And it gets a little bit too cozy. And it doesn't help identify good prices when you get too cozy and you have the same individuals you're working with for years and years and years and years, and you haven't changed a bit. Fiber optics is the infrastructure of the new infrastructure of the 21st century. It is as important as a bridge or road. And it's important that we work toward putting fiber optic connectivity throughout this city to not only businesses, but to homes as well. And this was very evident during COVID, when many people began to work at home. And more people will work from home in the long term as our workforce changes and the way of working changes. Tourism. We have now unveiled a new initiative called City-Sponsored Public Events. And it's designed to help organizers with defraying the cost of putting on their events in Oregon City. And ideally, we'd like to identify 3, 4, maybe 5, what I call marquee events that Oregon City is known for, and that they happen each year, and they become better and better and better. And that's very important if you want to have a tourism industry. The Arts Commission. We are very pleased with this Arts Commission. We worked with the commissioners to establish this, to reestablish this initiative after it's been away for so long. And so the Arts Commission, we were able to secure $40,000 for the Arts Commission. They are one of two. There are only 2 commissions that actually have resources, and the Arts Commission really needed resources to promote the arts in Oregon City. And the new program is where they will make available $35,000 to artists that will do projects on behalf of the public, within the public venue. The Enterprise Zone. I wanted to highlight this particular company because we were instrumental in getting them here. Advantage Credit Union. We early on we were able to negotiate with the company and with the county to provide this company with an incentive so that it will encourage them to move here. And as you can see, as a consequence of their moving here, they've consolidated 3 separate campuses into one. As you know, they recently opened and finished their facility. It's over 76,000 square feet on 12 acres of land. We have now 210 new employees in the city. The property value of this investment is said to be at $27 million, and the annual property tax abatement as a consequence of this enterprise zone is $307,000 for 3 years. So this helped the deal pencil, because as you know, the price of construction and other things were going up, and this certainly helped Advantage Credit Union with their development. So with that said, it's my pleasure to discuss this with you, but are there any questions? I'd be glad to take them.
I have one. Do you find that businesses are reluctant to develop in Oregon City because of restrictive codes or difficulty in dealing with city departments?
I think that that's the case a lot of cities. Not only Oregon City is not unique to us, but to answer your question, in order to make it easier, that's why we want to have something called the Ombudsman program that will increase the communication between businesses and the city government and the community. And keep in mind, in order to create a business-friendly environment, it's not only the city government's responsibility, it's the chamber's responsibility, it's DOCA's responsibility, it's your responsibility, it's the city commission's responsibility. Everyone has a role to play in setting the stage to welcome businesses in this city. So that's how we intend to address it.
Another question.
Yes, Dennis.
Can you speak to the other successes? You mentioned there was 5 new companies, and you used Advantis as one. Is there any others that you'd want to care to talk about?
Yes, there are others, and the only reason why I used Advantis is because it was so public. Matter of fact, one of the companies we were able to retain, I don't have any problem, I know they wouldn't have any problem me mentioning them, but first of all, we've attracted 4 companies to this city. We retained 5. And we were, through Talent Ready, we're helping 2 companies identify employees. One of the other companies that we've helped retain is, I guess you all know, Party Factory Events. They were contemplating moving out of the city because they could not find a place of operation after their leases ended. And they were having a very challenging time doing that. So they gave us a call, and we stepped in and helped them identify a place to conduct business and helped them with the code and permits that they needed in order to remain in the city. So, yes.
Good. Thanks.
Will?
Oh, how much do you work with the other organizations? I'm thinking of the impact that moving the courthouse is going to have on our downtown, and you know, just even walking through there recently, like there are so many businesses that suddenly seem to have evaporated. And, you know, I just feel like that's a real treasure to our community, and, you know, I'm just wondering how much you work with that.
The courthouse is high on our priority. It is within the Urban Renewal District. And as you know, May 16th is the ballot measure.
Yeah.
And of course, I can't speak much on that at all, but the courthouse is extremely important. And whatever goes in that courthouse, what must happen is that it cannot be an office. Or it has to be something that adds vitality to downtown and to bring energy to downtown. It cannot be something that's docile. So, we're hoping that we can negotiate with the county something reasonable so that we can acquire the courthouse. As you know, the infrastructure of the courthouse is in trouble, and it's crumbling. And so therefore, it's going to be an expensive proposition for any investor to try to make a go of it, and they're going to need help. Because a lot of investors' pockets are not as deep as that.
Would you like me to add to that, since I've been trying to negotiate with the chair of the county commission?
Please do.
The courthouse has been on the city's priority list for quite some time, and we actually started talking to the county commissioners about 3 years ago to say, you know, this has been their plan all along. They've been wanting to move. We came very close to entering into a partnership with them, but they unfortunately declined. We had the opportunity to apply for an Oregon Main Street grant to the tune of about $260,000 to update all of their feasibility studies that they'd done about 5 years ago. And all we needed was the signature of the county to say, yes, you can apply for the grant. We weren't obligating them to anything. We were not asking them to participate other than, I mean, we did invite them, but we weren't saying they had to do any of the work. We were going to do all the work by partnering with the Downtown Oregon City Association. And unfortunately, they declined to sign the application. So we missed out on an opportunity this past year.
What was their reasoning for that?
She said that they were not ready, and I don't know what that means. I've been trying to meet regularly with Commissioner Smith, Chair Smith, and she knows that that's one of our priorities. We said that we don't want to wait until the courthouse is empty and you use it for storage before we start doing studying and analysis on it. We have the other studies, but again, they're 5 years out of date, and they all need to be updated. So there was a market analysis, there was some environmental, some geotechnical, all of that needs to be, you know, brought current in case there's conditions that have changed. So we are still working to convince them that we should be able to get started on this, because again, as I said, waiting until they move is too late. We should have actually started this 3 years ago, but they didn't have first it was, well, they didn't have their funding in place, and then there was this thing, and you know where I'm going with this, and then there was this other thing. So we've been trying to make it very clear to them that this is really important, and they say that it's important to us, to them. One thing that I did get a commitment on that I hope we'll still retain is that we would like to take possession of Liberty Plaza. That is really the only open space downtown right now, other than the walkway along McLaughlin, but that's the only place people can gather downtown. And she thought that that was a great idea. There's going to be some partitioning and lot line adjustments involved, but that's pretty easy. So we've gotten that. We haven't really talked about what will happen to the Holman building. So if you know it by that name, it's the building where the jurors meet. It's called the Holman building, named after someone. So we've also been kind of thinking about that as well. I don't think they're going to be vacating the property at 12th, where they have some of the corrections things. I don't think that's going to move at this point in time, but we're trying. So James has been working from his end, and Ann, our other staff person, has been working, and we're working on the elected side to make sure that they continue to know that we're interested. I have a meeting with the county administrator next week, and that'll be number one on my list of topics besides the topic of homelessness, but that's kind of where we are right now.
Do you have any way to measure your successes?
Oh, yes, I've just given you two. But the way we measure success is actually one success at a time. And so if you try to measure economic development by the number of companies someone moved into your community, that's not the right way to do it. The way you measure economic development is whether or not your tax base, particularly the tax base that's paid by the business community, is declining. And if it's steady and rising, then your economic development department is doing what it's supposed to do. But if it's declining, there's something wrong.
Carla, yeah.
So my question would be, obviously we have a toll on the coming, possibly, we're trying to fight it. Have you seen any impact with that in a negative way towards our city for businesses possibly interested in coming? The second question I also have is, if the toll comes, have we thought of any alternatives on going up the hill? If you look at a business in terms of operations, and obviously there's a lot of bottlenecks through downtown, if they have, trying, to go 205, if, there's a toll that makes products and services at a higher rate. Have we started looking at how that affects us, and if there's any way to stop or help the flow of the bottlenecks?
Thank you for that question. That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked, because nothing makes me angrier more when I heard that. And when I heard that, we right away began to start working on it. I'm concerned about it because I think it will hurt our downtown. And I think our downtown is only been so large. And if you have people, trying to escape a toll and going downtown, you're going to clog the place up. Now, of course, the others who support the toll would say that, well, that's a way of just getting people downtown and getting them to see downtown. But as you very well know, when you're trying to go home, you're not going to stop. You're trying to go home. And so it just defies human behavior. One of the initiatives that we want to, we want to do right now, and I don't think it's over. It's not over until it's over. And our legislators are behind this. It's not the staff at the Department of Transportation, or it's the legislators. And they need to understand by your voices and others that this is not wanted. And it has to be heard continually. And what we want to do is work with the Chamber of Commerce here to enlist as many businesses as possible in a letter to the governor and a letter to legislators, letting them know that the business community, we cannot stand this, and we don't want this. And if you don't listen to us, there are consequences. And so that's important. Now, in terms of bottlenecks and finding out, that is actually the people in the planning department's position. So I can't speak to finding little bottlenecks, but I can certainly speak to the issue of speaking to our legislators and galvanizing the business community to come to the forefront and be a bit more active and not so shy about this issue.
Thank you.
Mr. LaSalle, do you want me to comment on that as well? Since half my job right now is tolling.
Yeah, I'll comment on it first.
Sure. I mean, I can tell you where the process is on the political side.
Well,
When you're ready.
It was brought up in a recent city commission meeting that perhaps it's time to bring a suit
Not yet.
into the mix. Personally, I think that the time talking to them is over. We've talked and talked and talked, and we've lettered and lettered and lettered, and they're not listening. So that's my share of opinions. Go ahead.
Well, you know that you really don't want to file a suit until you can show that you've been hurt, you know, just to use layman's language. So we are going to exhaust all of our administrative remedies. Right now, we are waiting for the deadline to pass for the comments to go in on the NEPA requirement that ODOT has to meet. And that's coming up very shortly, or it's either just passed. So those comments are going to go into the federal government. We're going to wait for their response and see how Oregon Department of Transportation responds to that. We've all jurisdictions have submitted letters. So right now, our delegation, the senators and state representatives from Clackamas County, and I will say with the exception of Senator Wagner, have signed onto a bill to ask for a 2-year delay to slow the process down, to allow for hearings to be held, to allow for what I would like to call a constructive response. What we've been doing, as you know, is sending in a lot of comments, and we get, thank you so much for your comments. They go over here or wherever pile basket they go in, and then we're not getting the answers to the questions that we are asking. So getting the answers is not merely the only thing that we are looking for. We are also looking for constructive dialogue. I've been asked by a couple of state senators, well, why don't we come up with a solution to avoid tolling? And I said, that's not our job. I said, our job as jurisdictions, local jurisdictions, is at this point in time is to respond. That's not our job to come up with a solution. There are other options out there, as you're aware, that ODOT has not looked at. For instance, of having a high capacity lane where all the lanes would not be tolled, only if you want to go through quickly. They call them a diamond lane in some states. There's that option. We've talked about raising the gas tax. We've talked about adding a little bump to the vehicle registration fees to sort of make up for it. So I'm not saying everybody's happy with this, but these are other alternatives instead of tolling. And we've been told that we can't do any of those other things. I said, well, we've talked about, and I say we're talking about the jurisdictions in Clackamas County. We said, well, what about a combination of things? And we completely get, talk to the hand. So at this point in time, we're hoping that the bill goes through. The other thing is, there is a private organization called the No Toll Army, which is fighting very hard to get enough signatures for it to go on the ballot, so IP4. And so one of the things we've said to the legislature is that you can either work with us now, where you have a little wiggle room, or you can let this ballot measure come up, and then you're stuck. You will have no wiggle room. You won't be able to use tolls. You won't be able to do anything because I'm pretty sure it'll pass. I can tell you that I have not talked to one person in this jurisdiction that I run into even from the other cities who is supportive of tolling. So I don't think that we have people in our jurisdiction, Clackamas County, that are supporting this. So mostly all the cities have signed on. We even had some support from the city of Cornelius, if you can imagine that. River Grove is interested. Maywood Park is interested. Fairview is interested. Because basically what will happen is that if this portion of it goes through, they're planning on tolling everything else. So, you heard that saying, I didn't pay any attention. And, when there was nobody left to complain, there was just me. So most of the jurisdictions are on board. They see that it will happen. We've got support from Tualatin because they think, 217 is going to be next. It's going to affect everyone. There have been some studies done by ODOT that unfortunately have not been released that talk about the economic impact. It was done in 2020. And from what I saw of it, it is basically Oregon City and West Lynn will be pretty well devastated. You talk about the diversion we have now, but think about that about threefold. So as James said, instead of being able to go home, you're going to be in that bottleneck. You might as well just park your car and you'll be a little parking lot. If you've ever been on 43 around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's pretty much the same way. The traffic is moving very, very slowly. So their idea of helping the freeway system is the tolling is, quote unquote, going to reduce congestion. Well, guess where all the congestion is going to go? 99, 213, 43. People will be coming through Hubbard, coming through Aurora. They will figure out wherever they can go.
I think we could have a whole separate meeting on.
Oh, you could, yeah. So anyway, so the update is, please let Representative Hartman know, let State Senator Mark Meek know that you support the bill that's, I can't remember the number and I apologize, that you support the moratorium at this point. Send them an email, call their offices. I know that they have our support in Oregon City. They have been fighting for us, I will tell you that. And I'm getting interviewed again next week on another program for the TV about why Oregon City is not supportive of tolling. And I think as you said, Bob, we've already said it like so many times. But again, we're going to keep saying it because it is getting traction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Any questions?
Just one more. Obviously, we've had let me turn this on. We have had discussions, we were presented last CIC session about a homeless transfer center and how that, what is the city's perspective? Because here's the thing is, it's a huge area, and technically if it was a commercial business, that would be bringing in property taxes. If it's a nonprofit, it won't be. So how's the consideration of the impact of that just on a financial level? We're not talking about homelessness or any insensitivity to that. And then also how that will impact businesses downtown. Have we been doing any surveys or feedback on that?
Well, we haven't done any surveys on that. I would gather that there's mixed reviews. I think that's fair. And I think those who are involved with this navigation center, they've done a good job in letting the community know of its intention. But initiatives such as that, the response usually from communities, not only in Oregon City, but all over the country, is not in my backyard. And the people who are houseless or homeless have to have some place to go and have to have services. So it's a challenging kind of situation. I'm an economic development practitioner, and I can tell you from my background, it's always challenging for businesses. But it all depends on how you treat it, and if you have the right kinds of services in place, the right kinds of planning in place to respond to when things get a bit out of hand. If you have you have to consider all kinds of angles. And if that's not well done, then those who are planning it will hear about it, I'm sure. So I would hope that they will develop it in such a way that it speaks to the challenges that goes with the situation.
I have Roger. Yeah. A question regarding fiber optics. My understanding, and it's been here for a while, the access was for the city or businesses. I'm not quite sure about that, but I would like to know if there's if you know a certain date that this is going to start, and will it cost the homeowners for this be put into their house, or is this private, or is this city doing this, or so?
Okay. Thank you for the question. What I speak to right now is a feasibility study to look at bringing fiber optics throughout the city. Now, there are bits and pieces of it here, but for a lot of areas in the city, reception is pretty bad. for internet connectivity. And so therefore, right now, we hired a company to do a feasibility study, and then the feasibility study is actually finished. So now we're having internal discussions about what's being done so we can have a discussion with the city commission. There are options there are options in the study, to the most expensive to the less expensive. So it's something that the city commission is going to have to take a look at and consider if they want to proceed with any of those options. And I'm not privy to talk about those options right now because they haven't seen them yet. And the city commission needs to see them first.
When will that be?
That will be after the budget cycle. Because you can imagine we're all involved with this budget issue. And so after the budget cycle, we'll have a discussion about that.
Thank you.
And that would be underground versus overhead, right?
It all depends. It depends on what's available in different parts of the city. Because if it's overhead in certain areas of the city, it's actually cheaper because the bedding, the rock, is very difficult to get beneath. In other situations, it's a little easier, so that can go underground. But as you probably know, fiber optic connectivity is extremely fast. It's extremely secure. Even in a flood or situations like that, you can continue to operate your fiber optic connectivity. But it is highly. When it's in your home, you'll notice the speed immediately. It's amazing. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. Anybody have questions? Okay, thank you, James.
Thank you.
It's very informative.
My pleasure.
Okay, our next guest is Kendall Reid, Oregon City Parks and Recreation Director. Looks like you're ganging up on us, huh?
No, not at all. Good evening. My name's Kendall Reid, and I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for Oregon City. And tonight, I have with me Melissa Sebastian. She's our Aquatics and a Recreation Manager. And tonight, we will be giving an update on what's going on in the Parks and Recreation Department, updates on major projects, and a lot of the fun activities that we have planned for the summer. So, brief overview of the Parks and Recreation Department. We manage 38 parks and 262 acres of parkland. We're responsible for playgrounds, open space, splash pads, sports fields, trails, rentals of facilities. Many of the facilities that are housed within the Parks and Recreation Department are the Mountain View Cemetery, the Pioneer Community Center, Oregon City Pool, and Ermitinger House. What many people don't realize is that we also are in charge of managing all of the facilities for the city. The Facilities Division is also housed in the Parks and Recreation Department. So we're responsible for over 320,000 square feet of facilities, over 12 facilities, and we're responsible for all the maintenance of those facilities as well. We're responsible for parks acquisition, planning, development, trail and park maintenance, recreation programs, classes, and activities. Department highlights. This year, we kicked off phase 2 of the Veterans Memorial renovation. Great picture. So we're really excited about that. We're hoping to have the renovation completed by Memorial Day for the Memorial Day celebration. We also kicked off the Mountain View Cemetery restroom renovation this biennium. This was a priority of the City Commission in order to make the cemetery restroom ADA accessible. And so that project is scheduled to be completed June 30th of this year. Hot off the presses, we have hired our new social services and community center manager. As many of you are aware, Kathy Wiseman, who had been with the city for 19 years, retired on March 31st. So I'm excited to announce Cecily Rose, who has been the director for the Malala Adult Center there since 2013, has accepted the position, and it will start May 8th, Monday of next week. So we're excited to have her, and we welcome her to be a part of the team. We also have concerts in the park and movies in the park. Melissa will be talking a little bit more about that. I'm also excited to provide an additional update about the Clackamas Park Master Plan and where we are in that process, and also talk about the Parks Master Plan. So the Parks Master Plan kicked off in April of 2022. We've held 2 public engagement meetings at City Hall. We've conducted numerous stakeholder interviews with city commissioners, with our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, also key leaders in the community. We've completed a statistically valid survey. We had over 400 people participate in that survey. We also completed our online survey. We had over 184 people participate in that survey. We completed levels of service inventory and agency benchmarking. We are currently working on the financial analysis and working on developing a funding plan, because I know that's top of mind with everyone in conversations around budget. So we will have recommendations with this Parks Master Plan on how to fund a lot of these projects that we have. We're also working on an action plan, and that's anticipated to be completed this month. And then we're planning to bring back the comprehensive plan to the community in June of this year. The Clackamas Park Master Plan, this plan was kicked off in March of 2022. We held 3 public meetings to create a foundation for the master plan. That plan was approved by the City Commission on August 17th. The plan was then taken to planning, and just on April 21st, 2023, we submitted our general development plan. So our hope is that once that has been completed in planning, that then it will then go to the Planning Commission and hopefully get officially adopted.
Great. So we've got a bunch of events coming up this summer. So we have our concerts in the park and movies in the park. So we're still hosting 7 concerts and 4 movies. You'll see all the dates and selections listed on this slide. We've got a good variety of music coming. Hands on the Wanted covers the today's top hits. We've got a Beatles tribute, Fleetwood Mac tribute, an 80 hits cover band, an acoustic country original and covers by Haley Verhalen, and then Earth, Wind, and Fire tribute, and then Johnny Limbo and the Lugnuts for the 50s and 60s. And then movies in the park, we have Minions, Rise of Gru, The Sandlot, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and Indiana Jones. For our movies in the park, those were all selected by the community. We compile a large list every year and have people vote on those, and those were the top 4 this year that were selected.
Melissa, which Indiana Jones?
The original one. Yeah. Yep. So, and I forget that they keep remaking movies. So yeah, I always have yeah. When people vote for them, the years are on there, I promise. So, and then the Ermitinger House, so that is one of the sites that I manage. Right now, we have our Preserve Our Past Art and Poetry contest going on, and that is a contest for youth 11 to 15 to submit either an art piece or a poetry piece based off of either a story or a heritage site of at least 50 years old, and they have an opportunity to win up to $150, depending on where they place on that. We're also super excited to update people on our field trip programming because we, as you know, some people are aware, a lot of school districts, when they send a class to go to a field trip, they hope to send a group of 90 kids or a whole fourth grade class. And so our site cannot hold that many youth at a time. So what we have done is we have developed a partnership with the Stevens Crawford House next door, and then the Pioneer Community Center, which is right across the street. And we're now able to take large groups and essentially split them up into 3 different sections and rotate them through the site. So since we reopened this site back in 2018, a lot of the years we've only been able to get 1 or 2 classes, whether it's a homeschool group or a single class in, whereas this spring we're seeing over 500 kids visit this site this year, which is huge compared to other years. And then it's May 1st, which is super exciting. We're kicking off Historic Preservation Month. There are going to be several things going on in May and June that we are partnering with our Friends group on. One of them is we are going to this weekend have displays of a bunch of old photos of the restoration process. And then we have some lectures that are taking place on Saturday, May 6th at 1 p.m. We're gonna have the architecture of the Ermitinger House, which will be presented by Bill Hawkins. And then at 2:30, we will have a presentation that is the Ermitinger House before and after restoration, which will be by Rocky Smith Jr. And then Saturday, May 20th at 1 p.m., we will have the Preservation Legacy of Ruth McBride Powers, which will be given by Denise McGriff. And then in June, in conjunction with a lot of the other heritage sites in Oregon City, there's going to be a display of wedding gowns and stories of women who wore them. And then there will be a Weddings Through the Centuries program, and details for June 17th are coming soon. And then summer camps. So this year we have opened up our camp registration at this point. We still have openings, and most of our camps, our full day camps, are filling up quicker than our pre-K camps and our half-day camps. But this year is the first year that we are offering camps between the hours of 9 to 5. Kind of what James talked about in the last presentation, we know there's a big lack of that full day coverage for parents. And so we're trying to help out with that with some of our camps. And so we will be doing that for the first time this year, along with another camp that'll run at Rivercrest Park from 9 to 4. And then we'll have a pre-K camp that'll be over at the Pioneer Community Center, which will run Monday through Thursday from 9:30 to 11:30, and a half-day camp that'll be from Monday through Thursday from 12 to 5. And then each week will have a different theme and guest speakers, and the full-day camps will get to swim at the pool different days of the week, depending on which camp. So there's a large variety there happening. And then the Oregon City swimming pool. So our summer swim lesson registration date begins Wednesday, May 24th at 12 p.m. We know that swimming lesson registration is a huge topic. This was something that we have been, going through even prior to the pandemic, and definitely a lot coming out of it is we have reached our, capacity at that site. Our wait lists are so long. I gave a report, not too long ago to our Park and Rec Advisory Committee, just stating that, looking at our past quarter, we were only able to meet about 41% of the need as far as people who were registered for swimming lessons versus people on the wait list. And that doesn't capture everyone who's probably on the wait list, because there's a certain point where it just gets so long that people, don't see the point in adding their name to that list. Our facility is open Monday through Saturday from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. and it is packed with multiple programs. But with this summer, we are offering a lot more lessons in the morning and the evenings. And then we will be offering some additional recreation swims that'll be taking place in the afternoons from 2:30 to 4 when it gets really hot. And then our outdoor wading pool will open sometime in the middle of June. It just kind of depends on when the weather starts to be nicer. And then we are fully operating and within, the capacity of our one pool in the city. And then volunteer opportunities. So this is another thing we just wanted to talk about. A lot of our services are ran on volunteers, specifically, at our Pioneer Community Center. So we just wanted to make sure to, bring up that, there's Meals on Wheels drivers, recreation instructors. We have a junior camp counselor program that we run for ages 13 to 17, which is another huge success with our camps coming up. That's the biggest it's ever been as far as the amount of people that we've had sign up for that. That's to help, build job skills within a lot of our youth before they come to the age of applying for those jobs. And to kind of bridge that gap too, from the time of when they're no longer able to participate in camps, but not quite ready to get a job, so they can still participate in some way. And then the Ermitinger House, we're always looking for volunteers there. And then concert series, and then we're working on developing a swim lesson volunteer program, and then various park cleanup sites. And then we're also, I want to do a plug, we're also looking for a lot of paid positions as well within our park system. We're hiring a lot of seasonal positions for park maintenance workers, as well as swim lesson instructors. Those are the two big positions in our department now that we're looking for.
Questions?
Where is the nearest municipal pool?
Probably Canby.
Because you're really booked out on that. That's amazing.
Well, one of the things that goes unnoticed is during the pandemic, many of the facilities closed down. Some didn't open back up. So the needs increased quite a bit. Melissa was able to keep the pool open to the community, not shut down, stay fully staffed. She also lifeguarded, did whatever it took to keep the facility running, ran at full capacity over the summer, and was one of the few pools within the state that was able to stay open. So kudos to her for all of her hard work in keeping that pool open.
But we need another pool.
Any other questions? Linda?
Pool. Does the pool make money? Is that covers itself?
I would say no pool actually makes money.
Okay.
I've managed a lot of pools. Pools take up a lot of resources in regards to costs associated with pools, even some of your newer pools. Right now, our pool is about 60 years old. You can only imagine the maintenance cost associated with that pool. At one point in time, it was in complete disrepair and was revitalized and renovated to get it to the state that it's currently in. So it's never going to necessarily be at a break-even point for a pool. We can always try to increase the sustainability in regard to the programs and the services that we offer. But a pool is normally going to cost more than you make. Yeah.
That takes my thing, a suggestion of building a bigger pool and perhaps as a fund moneymaker for the rest of the parks recreation. And another question I have from the last one is the little picture that you showed. It didn't appear like there were any handicapped swings. Do you have handicapped swings in your parks, all of your parks?
There are some swings in our parks. I can't recall the parks right off the top of my head, but we do have those located in some of our parks. But I would be more than happy to review that and send that information out.
Yeah, I would like
Yeah.
that. I have a handicapped great-grandchild. When they were here for the weekend, she said, well, where are the swings? And I don't know where they're at. Yeah. That's
And that would be something that we should highlight.
You should highlight, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, that's
Steve?
it.
Yep, there's no swings at all at Place Park.
Oh,
Don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. You're all
Working
set.
on it. We're working on it.
Is Straight Pioneer Cemetery a park anymore? Used to be.
Straight Pioneer Cemetery.
I think it's listed on our park list. I think that was one of the places we had to go during
wasn't,
the ice storm
yeah.
to evaluate.
I mean, the Straight Cemetery.
It's the Straight Pioneer
Yes,
Cemetery,
yeah,
yes.
Over on Clackamas River Drive, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just making sure that it's still in the parks list. And
Oh, go ahead.
Place Park, near and dear to our hearts.
Yes.
Is there any thought to using SDCs to purchase a specific piece of property that would prevent the need for a road through the park?
Well, what I will say is that we are working on that currently and exploring those options.
Good.
Yeah.
Carla?
So I guess my question would be, number one is for overall, the fees have gone up somewhat, as much, the transition because of just, relooking at the fees and that goes back to the general fund, correct?
Yes.
Typically. And how does that go back into the Parks Department or?
Well, you have to understand, if
Okay.
you look at the parks budget and you look at our expenses versus our revenue, so you can actually look at our proposed budget for this year. We have over $12 million worth of expenses. So where does that money come from? Because we're only bringing in about $2.9 million worth of revenue. So we're highly subsidized. So when we're talking about fees, we want to be intentional in regards to kind of how we talk about fees, because it's kind of part of that three-legged stool. So park fees are a way for us to recoup some of our costs. But what we've tried to do when we have this conversation around park fees and cost recovery, what we've tried to do is to be intentional how we're going to use taxpayer subsidy. So our continuum is set up that if something is for community benefit, it's highly subsidized. There's little to no cost associated with those programs versus something that's going to be more individualized. So that's how we look at the fee structure. The other thing that we look at is residents who pay taxes should get the best rates, bar none, than anybody. So non-residents pay more than residents because our residents pay taxes. So we set up our fee schedule to adjust for that as well. So when we're looking at fees, what we're trying to do is recoup a small portion of what our costs are. And the issue that we were running into when I first started is, and you can kind of use sports field fees as an example. You look back to when that fee was established. It was back in 2000. It's 2023. It's the same fee. That normally doesn't happen because what happens is your costs continually go up, and if there was a form of assessment when it looked at your direct and your indirect costs, those fees would have been adjusted for. And so what was happening when I first started is we would come before the city commission with a fee that we've had for 20 years and say, hey, guess what? We've absorbed all these minimum wage increases and costs have gone through the roof and inflation is through the roof. We're gonna need to make some adjustments, and we were having to make these huge adjustments, and the city commissioners were like, what are you doing? Why aren't you evaluating these fees on a regular basis? Why do you need these huge increases? Because we haven't increased prices over many, many years. And then you find yourself in a situation where costs are through the roof, and then you have to make these adjustments. So what we're gonna be doing is evaluating our costs on an annual basis. It doesn't mean that there's gonna be fee increases on an annual basis, but we have to be aware of what our costs are. The other thing that I like to go back to is talking a little bit about kind of how we got here. One of the initiatives that I had from the City Commission was to look at our deferred maintenance, to have a clear understanding of where we stand with deferred maintenance. So we hired a consultant to come and do an assessment of actually all of the facilities in the city, and also incorporated all of our parks. So we have a better understanding of like true numbers of where we are. So once we did that and we were able to get that number, we also looked at cost recovery and said, okay, we know we have all of these expenses and we're bringing in a minimal amount of revenue. Can we become more sustainable to free up some of this taxpayer subsidy to reinvest back in programs, services, to address some of the deferred maintenance that we have? And that tied into the whole conversation around cost recovery and park fees, because the more sustainable you become, the more margin you have to play with. So all that general fund that's being used to sustain us, we become more sustainable. We can free up some of that money and earmark some of that money for some of these park projects, because we have an aging infrastructure. Many of our parks are very, very old and need repairs. So it's a tool that we use, but we know there's going to need to be additional funding and additional conversations around how are we going to tackle this deferred maintenance issue. It's just a small portion of trying to become more sustainable, trying to be more fair and equitable in how we assess fees. Because the other issue that we had is, say if Bob came to me and said, hey, I want to rent a shelter. I said, well, Bob, I like you. You're going to get it for free. Everybody else has to pay. So we had created these relationships with these groups who we value, who we said, hey, we're going to treat you different than these other people. And so these other people were like, well, why am I not getting that same deal? So we wanted to create a fair and equitable structure across the board that said, okay, you're a sports organization. This is the rate that we're going to charge sports organizations. It wasn't to say that all sports organizations do really great work and are highly valuable. That wasn't the conversation that we were having. But what we were saying is, you do sports and you do sports. How do we treat you fairly? How do we provide you the same benefit that we provide everybody else? So that's how we ended up getting here with the conversation around fees, sustainability, trying to be fair and equitable and create a structure that works for us more long-term.
The biggest,
You might mention the latest decision on fees charged to neighborhood associations.
Yes. So if you would allow me just to provide a little backstory around the fees associated with neighborhood associations.
Please be brief.
I will be brief. But I had this conversation with Bob. When we were starting to get the request about the use of shelter rentals, I had reached out to city leadership and said, is this a service that we can provide for free? I was told that this was not a service that we provide for free. It wasn't a part of the policy. At the time, We had the library available for free for the neighborhood associations. And so how the policy was written, if I wanted to provide a waiver to a neighborhood associations, I had to go to the city manager to ask for permission for that waiver to be granted. So the situation came up is, why are we charging these fees? Because the policy was written in a way where I can't just arbitrarily waive that fee for neighborhood associations. Hence, we got to the point where we got directed by the city commissioners to move forward with allowing the neighborhood associations to get free access to shelters moving forward. So once we got that approval, that's how we got to the point to where now we can provide that to all of the neighborhood associations. It wasn't a function of parks not wanting to provide this community benefit. The policy wasn't written that way for us to be able to do that.
Please remember, if you want to use the park, though, that you must still fill out the application so that they know who's using the parks. Carla?
Just real quick, I just wanted to make a statement, and then I'm gonna let people move on, I do think that, obviously, there's certain things that need to be equitable and fair, but I do, obviously, from my understanding, is the parks is always gonna be at a deficit because of the fact that we're serving the community, and there'll always be a need, especially for children and the elderly who paid in, especially our elderly who've paid in for so many years for our city to be able to benefit a bit. And I really hope there's a lot of buildup for the Pioneer Center and other parts like the pools, because our elderly and our children really need this more than anything. And I would hope that eventually there could be some swimming for low-income families who can't afford it. So thank you very much.
Denise?
Will the Waterboard Park be included in the Parks Master Plan?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Yes.
Will?
So I'm an avid swimmer. I'm probably there as much as I can get there almost every day. So one thing I would say is that our fees are way lower than any other community that I have ever swum at. Like I swim in Newport during the summers when I'm volunteering there, and what I pay for 3 months there as an out-of-district person is, I think, double what I would pay here for a whole year. And admittedly, they have a beautiful, facility, but at the end of the day, I'm still doing the same amount of laps, and it's water, and it's just as long. So I don't know if it would make sense to have more of a sliding scale for people, because I don't think people who can't afford it should be penalized. And I ran into a woman at the and I said, I'll bring it up. Like, is there could we do a sliding scale, or like, are we, I think there's a silver sneaker program for people who are over 65. Just throwing out ideas of how you could maybe bring in more income. There are a ton of people who come to swim every day who are not from Oregon City. And so, the pool's quite full sometimes, and it's not from Oregon City residents. They're coming in from West Lynn, they're coming in because it is so cheap. So, just an idea.
And we do have silver sneakers set up at this point, and then within the next month, we should have silver and fit set up there as well.
Fantastic.
So.
You want to talk about the scholarship fund as well?
Oh, we do have, we have a scholarship fund, but it's for swimming lessons. Yeah, so we have, for anyone that is a part of the, free lunch program at the school or falls within a certain income versus, however many people in the house, we do cover up to 75% of the cost of swim lessons.
I guess I'm saying you could charge me more.
Yeah.
One more, Carl?
No,
Roger.
it was for
Oh,
me.
Roger.
Mine wouldn't stand up.
Oh.
So I about the deferred maintenance, when I was on track 2014 and on, it was 27 million. Do you know what it is now?
It's 23 million, but I say that with the caveat, when we did that back in 2021, you look at inflation and you look at costs right now, it could probably be double that amount if you're looking at those costs. But at the time, it's 23 million.
Are there any other departments that have this sort of deferred maintenance?
Well, facilities and parks.
No, that's part of the parks department.
Yeah.
So the parks department is pretty much the only one that has deferred maintenance.
No, I would think that, I mean, you look at Public Works and you look at the maintenance that they have to manage with pipes and all of that, they would have deferred maintenance as well.
We don't hear about that versus the parks.
Because they have money. Because they have money.
Oh, okay. We were trying to share a little bit the other night for you. So my understanding is that the marijuana tax was supposed to be going to parks.
No, we did get money from the marijuana tax specifically to help with the building of some of our parks, like DC Lotterette Park actually received money from the marijuana tax in order to get that park renovated and developed. So we did use some marijuana money to address some maintenance in our parks and to build parks.
Is that still ongoing?
I am pretty sure we don't have any money in our budget at this time available.
So it doesn't come directly to the parks then?
Well, at that time, we did get that money directly to us for that specific project.
Okay. And I guess the other question is for Melissa. You didn't mention the scholarships for the camp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we also have scholarships available for camps. That's actually provided by the Parks Foundation with their Elijah Dean Memorial Fund. So, and we, again, still have plenty of openings. We usually recommend for everyone who does need scholarships to make sure to apply for them at least a week before the registration opens to ensure they have access to be able to register the same day. But there's still
I wasn't
openings.
trying to give us a plug.
Yeah.
I was just,
Well, but you're the ones that provide it.
okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
Dan? I have a question. How do we get you guys some more money?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you get us more money?
Dedicated money.
Dedicated money would definitely help. What's important to understand, I know there's a lot of needs, and I know the general fund is limited, and we're trying to maximize our resources as much as possible, and we consistently do more with less, because that's what we're called to do. We're here to serve this community. There are some options out there for funding, a bond levy, utility fees. It's interesting that we've gotten a lot of public comments specifically around like turf fields. They want more turf fields. And the comparisons that were made in regards to how great some of these fields are in other jurisdictions where they have utilities fees or they're special districts or they pass bonds. They have those resources available in order to reinvest back into their park system. So I think the City Commission needs to hear from the community, what kind of park system do you want? And advocate for that because we're here to serve. We want to provide more programs, more services. We want to maintain a high level of service. We want to build more parks, but we can't do it without the funding.
Well, I'll give you one of my little pet peeves. You just mentioned it, was new parks. Mm-hmm. And I hope that the City Commission will listen when I say that the last 5 years, I think we built 2 new parks.
3.
3? Does it make any sense to build new parks when you can't even take care of the ones you already have?
What I'll say to that is our community is growing, and what we're hearing from the Parks Master Plan and the surveys is the community wants more neighborhood parks because they add to the quality of life, property values. People love parks, they love being outdoors. We want to be able to provide those services, but what we have to be cognizant of, if we add 3 parks we don't get additional staff, we don't get additional maintenance, that creates a problem. So when we're going to be building new parks or redeveloping parks, we need to make sure that we also attach additional funding associated with those parks moving forward.
I have one more question, and then I'll get to you, Will.
I just have a quick one.
Where does the funding come from for the Clackamas Park changes?
The Clackamas Park Master Plan?
Yeah.
So that's something that we're going to be working on once the plan is approved. So what we're going to do is the plan is going to be in phases. So everyone's probably aware of the boat ramp and the issues around where the boat ramp is located. It's going to be a 4-year project in order to get that boat ramp relocated to be able to do studies. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to work with the Oregon State Marine Board to see if we can get access to funding from them. And then we're also going to have to go out for grants. But that's going to be something that we're going to be working on once that master plan is approved. So we've already started having the conversations with the Oregon State Marine Board, and we're going to leverage our West Good Neighbor Agreement funding that we get to start that process. And then also you have the RV park. The relocation of that RV park is probably going to cost about $1.2 million. So we're going to have to continually work on getting additional grants and additional funding in order to build up enough funds to tackle each one of these phases to get these projects started, because that's going to be an expensive project. It's one of our only regional parks. It can be a gem. It's in a great location, and I think it could add to economic development, but it's going to take a lot of planning and a lot of hard work to get the funding that we need.
Okay, we'll have time for one more question, Will.
Just a very rough, I mean, what's the historical, have there been park bonds here? Nothing. I mean, it was, we lived in Beaverton for years and, benefited from PRD hugely. And it was just such a wealth of, I don't know if we just spread it, amongst more people.
We'll
We've
put
got
you
more
on the
people coming.
committee.
I'm happy to.
Our citywide satisfaction survey from not this most recent one, but the one before that, we put a question on there, and we asked people would they be willing to support a parks levy, and we got overwhelming support from at least the 400 participants that participated in that one. That was a 21-22 survey. I don't know if it was on there again this year, but we've asked about it, and Kendall is correct. The districts that you're talking about that people keep comparing us to are special districts. They have money specifically dedicated. They have levies, they have utility fees. We have none of those. So maybe one of the ideas that we float is that we put something on our utility bill, like we have pavement maintenance. We're gonna get rid of the one for the police station. Maybe we replace that one with a parks fee. I mean,
Maybe entice people that there's a new pool down the road or something, or, something, people get excited about. I mean,
we're asking them to do a lot with nothing.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So, anyway, I'll stop.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Kendall. I wish you luck on your funding.
Yeah. Good luck.
It's up there. Sometimes you have to go.
Okay, the next subject is the CIC budget. And I presented to the Budget Committee last Thursday. I think I gave a pretty good presentation. However, I don't think I made it as clear as possible exactly what we're asking for. There were some questions from the Budget Committee that I had a little difficulty. I'm not a math whiz, and I didn't have a calculator with me. And so I'm hoping that I'm waiting for somebody's attention. I'm hoping that at the next Budget Committee meeting, which is this Thursday, that I'll have an opportunity to make exactly what we're asking for more clear. I don't know if they're going to be allowing any citizen comments at their deliberations, but Thursday they accepted all the citizen comments and the beggings, pleas for more money. And then they put off the deliberations because it was getting kind of late until this Thursday. So I'm hoping I'll have the opportunity to make our plea a little more clear and very concise.
We won't be deliberating on Thursday.
I thought you were.
The city manager plans to go through each department individually, each area individually. We won't be making any decisions at next Thursday's meeting. I'm not sure how you got that understanding or impression. So we still have to go through every single department, and I don't know if we're going to get through all of them Thursday night.
Well, then there will definitely be a third.
Oh, there's several budget committee meetings scheduled. There's
Really?
half a dozen of them.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to go to all of them.
Really,
We have a lot of departments to go through.
Ms. Mayor, that blows my mind.
Well, you don't have to attend them all. It should blow my mind because I do have to attend them all.
In the past, the Budget Committee has met once and passed the budget, and that was it. This is wonderful.
I don't think it's going to be that quick.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
I would love it to be that quick, but we have a meeting Thursday.
Yeah.
There's a budget committee meeting scheduled tentatively for the 18th. I'm just looking through my calendar.
When does the new budget start? What, is that-
July, it's a fiscal year. We have to have the budget passed, by June 30th. I mean, we plan to hopefully get it done before June 30th. I don't think anybody wants anybody to be waiting until the last minute. But the new budget year starts July 1, as it has been forever, as far as it's just in the last few years we've done 2-year budgets, because when I worked for the city, it was always 1 year. So you were finishing up the budget cycle in July, and then in September, you'd start all over again for the next budget year, and it was just constant. And so this gives us, I think, going to the biennium has given not only the public, but the departments a little more breathing room to see how things are going. And then I think we did one budget adjustment last year. We had an adjustment because we had to add the money that we got from the COVID settlements. So we added that in. We've got some money that is very specifically designated as the opiate settlement. The state of Oregon sued the big pharma people, and so there was money coming back from that, but it's very specific in the legislation about what you can use it for. I haven't even gone through, it's about 50 pages of very teeny tiny print.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to study in detail the city budget, it's quite a challenge. Yes.
Hey, Bob, I was just looking at the city calendar, and we have budget committee meetings the next 3 Thursdays.
Oh, okay.
And some of them may be TBD, but we go through budget committee meeting 4, which is on May 18th, and 3 is on the 11th, and 2 is on the 4th.
And then we have our renewal budget meetings.
Okay, well, I'll be at each one of them to try to get, when the opportunity comes forth, to put my 2 bits worth in. Let's see here. Public comment, I don't see anybody in the room. Is anybody on Zoom? Okay. The minutes, we have some minutes to approve. Does anybody have any input on any of the minutes?
No.
Okay, I would
I
take.
move that we approve the minutes.
I second it.
Is that all the minutes on
All the minutes that were presented.
Okay,
And I
it's been
second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's passed. Staff liaison updates. Christina? Or,
Passed over.
okay.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to pull up the staff liaison report, just one moment, and I will make sure to talk loud since I'm wearing a mask. Okay, for the staff liaison report, yes, hello, my name is Emma. If you don't remember me from our last meeting, I realize I don't have a name tag, so I'm gonna need to get one. As far as the staff liaison, the only update that I have is the budget. I put in the executive summary, the postcard budget specifically, as it stands for May. I put in the executive summary that multiple neighborhoods have gone over their individual postcard budgets for the fiscal year. I'm sure as some of you know, these neighborhoods include Canma, Caulfield, McLaughlin, and Rivercrest. Caulfield has already been approved for the extra funds. It was voted on, but the other neighborhoods need approval by the CIC vote for use of inactive neighborhood funds. I also wanted to say that Gaffney Lane has chose to go inactive. And so that budget is available. I can pull up the May budget if anybody needs it for a refresher.
Can you give us a total of how much it looks like we have now to draw from?
Yes, I can. I'm gonna have to pull up the budget to look at that. Is that fine? Yeah.
I have a question. If we don't use the money this year and it goes back to the general fund? Yes, okay.
Yes. Okay.
Well, it looks like we've spent 19,000 out of the 26,000.
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question right there.
And those are for any invoices that were sent to us from Buell's by the agenda posting date. So if you have a postcard that's going out, but I haven't received the invoice for, it would be updated in the June meeting.
We have a meeting in June.
Your mic wasn't on.
My mic wasn't on. Okay, I'll say that again. This spreadsheet was created last week, so at the end of day, last Monday, any invoices that were sent from Buell's were added to the spreadsheet. If you have a postcard that is been approved, but we haven't received an invoice yet for it, it'll be updated in the June meeting.
I think Kenema will need to get approval for funds for a June meeting.
Do you know how much?
Well, it looks like $120.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
There's also Rivercrest, or someone else needed it as well?
Yeah. I make the motion to give Kenema the additional funds.
And McLaughlin.
McLaughlin also needs.
Yep, McLaughlin does.
And Elyville?
Caulfield,
We've got-
Caulfield also.
I'm first.
How about all four of those?
Yeah, we've got that. So we've got Kenema and was Hillendale, oh,
Elyville, I think.
McLaughlin,
McLaughlin, yeah.
Elyville. What else?
Caulfield. I'd like to do one more mailing so we use up the money.
Okay,
At Rivercrest as well, Bob.
And why?
Rivercrest,
I have a question. Our next meeting that we'd need a postcard for is in July, but that's the new one, right? Okay, thank you.
We're good.
well, we've got,
It'll print, wouldn't that print in June though?
When in July is it?
Oh, okay.
Early. I haven't looked yet. First
It's
Tuesday.
for, I'm going to do my best to be finance, but take it for what it is. Work that's done up to June 30th is in this fiscal. Work that's done after July 1 is in the next fiscal. So,
So I think.
Looks like
I
we
think
still have
McLaughlin
money on the
doesn't-
black bar though, right? On Tower Vista and Hillendale? The bottom black bar, is that what we have left?
yeah.
Yes.
So you're fine regardless.
Well, yeah, the overall might, we'd have to add all that up, I guess.
We probably heard.
Not, Sarah, not for us, but for, the other
yes, the
five
rest
that want
of- gotcha.
additional funds.
So we need about 700.
Well, let's see, I'm in a quandary here because we have 5 neighborhoods that are gonna need more funding. We don't know how much of that $19,000 is unused yet from the neighborhoods.
Well, we have 19,000 that's spent to date, so it's really more,
You have like
Well, it's 19 it says here,
6680.
19,000 paid to date.
yeah, so
That would only-
6,680.
Oh,
Remaining
6,600, yeah.
And we're just over that if we give everybody,
We're just, you
the money.
figured that out, okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you, well then,
Dan, didn't you, say that you just wanted to send something out so that we could use the budget?
Yes.
So
Well,
you're-
yeah, and plus, we missed our last meeting because of COVID,
I
when
see.
it was canceled, so our people that are coming to our meetings are up above 25, and we had a whole bunch of people that didn't make it. They went to the meetings because it was canceled like 2 days before, and getting the notice out was just, didn't work. We put my phone number at the door, and I had tons of people call me on the phone, and that was the wrong thing to do. I should have had them calling somebody else trying to run the meeting, so remotely, so, and so I'd like to get another one out so we don't lose the momentum of getting started. Plus, I want to start out, sending out a bigger flyer that, and it costs less than the little card. It's full color, so we can get more information across.
well, according to what Steve has figured, we're gonna run out of money.
How much? How much?
well, including Park Place, which wasn't one of the 5 that, we're just under 6,000, but I see that there's others that are already,
We have 60.
if they send something out, they have a little bit of money, but not enough to pay for it. So we'll be close. It'll be virtually on the budget, as long as South End, Hazel Grove, and Gaffney Lane never.
Well, Gaffney Lane's not coming, right?
Okay, well then, I'll ask for a motion to approve, McLaughlin, Elyville, Caulfield, Rivercrest,
Nina?
and Kanema. Yeah, I couldn't even read my own writing for crying out loud. So we'll need to put forth a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the budgets for postcards using from other neighborhoods that are not using those at this point.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
I don't, so are you gonna have enough money if Tower Vista, Hillendale, Sweet Doors combined, we'll pretty much use our budget that we've got left? Are we gonna run out of money?
Not quite.
Okay,
It'd be pretty close.
okay.
Yeah.
As long as our printer doesn't charge us more.
And
that case,
fiscal
I'll
year
second.
does end in the end of June, so we've only got,
It depends on the budget committee getting their
Yeah.
act together.
Well, that's for next year.
yeah, that's, okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passed. Okay. Everybody got their money. Okay, now we'll move into the roundtable. Oh, was liaison all done? Okay. We'll move into round table. We'll start with Linda at Kanema.
We had our meeting at the library park, April 20th. It was delightful to meet in the neighborhood. We had Mark meet there as a special guest. He was talking about Proposition 395, the problems he's had getting it listened to, his hopeful analysis that it will get done, and it was very interesting. We also had the fire department there talking about passing a levy. They need to have their levy passed. And we're going to have a cleanup for Kanema Cemetery. We'll be meeting 5/20 for our cleanup there. That's kind of a private cemetery, but it is in the neighborhood. It's open on Memorial Day weekend. If you haven't ever been to that park, come. It's absolutely delightful. Sarah Barlow is buried there, as well as many other people. Their names are everywhere, so that was a great thing to have happen. That's for me.
I want to share something. This is something that's been breached before in the CIC. I received this letter, most of the neighbors in Kanema received this letter from a former neighbor who was very active, participated a lot, was our treasurer, and he writes this letter, and it's 2 pages, but I'm going to just suffice it to read a couple of points because I think it's salient to the issue related to the difficulty both in McLaughlin and Kanema. And so, please bear with me. So this is Tim Ahouse, and he's writing it to the neighborhood Kanema. Okay, I want to write all of you and let you know that unfortunately, with truly heavy heart, we are going to be putting our lot for sale, putting it up for sale. I have lost all the hope and truly have no fight left in me to continue the process with the city and dreaded the back and forth between planning, engineering, HRB, and not to mention our own geotech and civil engineer. The latest news is that planning and engineering do not believe we would be able to get a permit relating to the walls approved through the commission for the right way, or the geotech or the civil engineer he's talking about, say have no way to do it except to have a taller retaining wall on our property for a steeper cut. Then, even then, we may not be able to eliminate that and completely would be encroaching on the right of way. This would require us to go back and have another round of grading and engineering redone with taller retaining walls, going back to HRB, getting a variance approval for a taller wall over 5 feet, back again to planning and engineering and the city. And again, that's if, and only if, we can design or get approval for the retaining wall that are only on our lot and not in the right of way. Last paragraph that I'm going to share with you, there would be no way we could get even close to building this year. I could foresee thousands of dollars more spent for discovery with the civil engineer, the geotech, and find out what can be done with retaining walls before even going back to the HRB or approval or not. My wife is beyond frustrated. I'm done with the process as mentioned above, and we have started and built about 500 homes. This is a contractor. He works in the area. He's built 50 homes in the time he's put this in place. For 3.5 years, he's been in the process of trying to create a property within Kanema, all the while participating, I did say. And so we have started and built about 50 homes from our own company over the last 4 years when we started this process. And he works for Lexar Homes, Tim Ahouse. So I think it's just a difficult thing. Granted, Kanema, McLaughlin have issues related to historic preservation, and these are good. But I think what's happened, it's restrictive, and it's not as an easy, it becomes convoluted, and it's a process that seems to be protracted over too long of a period of time with the change of the boards, planning, HRB, whatever. What happens often is that we lose some of the best people that have come into our neighborhood. He cites the other 2 people who have actually managed to get through the process, some of them 3 and 5 years, who had the tenacity, maybe had more funds, and just whatever. they stuck it out and they got through it. Also, with the same kind of caveats on the difficulty and the convoluted way of like how it goes in through the process. So one of the things, not relevant to us particularly, but I mean would be something to venture forth and consider something that could be done about the process. I think we've had some people here from the city talk about this. It's not just a planning thing, it's not just the HRB. I think it's the way it's shaped in terms of like somebody coming in, wanting to remodel or build. We have a limited amount of property in Kenema, probably a little bit more property in McLaughlin, but they face the same kind of issues. And so because I've got this letter and it's the roundtable, I thought it would be very important to like bring it forth. And when it comes around, maybe as a topic of discussion or something that could be done to create some kind of way of mitigating the issue of this process that we need to revisit. And that is trying to build in Kenema or McLaughlin. Both have the benefits of both being a historic neighborhood as well as out of period. So it's a difficult thing. I know Denise has helped with me with a lot of the things related to our bylaws, and still it exists. And it's a big elephant in the room, and it thwarts getting in some new neighbors. And here, and while I'm going on about this maybe too long, the emotion is the fact that we're losing a very good neighbor who's been active. He's been our treasurer, and now he is at his wit's end. His wife is out of it, and it's sad.
And they won't build in Oregon City. So, doubly sad, yeah.
Thank you for letting me spew.
Yeah, it's very aggravating that we have these little things that just, with the handcuffs on.
Thank you. Dan Caulfield?
Our little nice little mailing, we can now do this size mailing, full color, pictures, everything, both sides of it, for a little less than doing this mailing. The only difference is you have a 1 week lead time to get it in the mail here. Here you have to have a 3 week lead time to get it in the mail. But we can get a lot more information out, and possibly we could have information from all the neighborhood associations on everybody's flyer that what's appropriate that our neighborhood would like to have everybody else be aware of. And that's about all I got.
Bob, can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Emma and Jared, our communications manager, can look at, in the next fiscal year, different ways to do procurement for postcards and see if we in a city, if it makes sense to have a contract with particular parties, because you're going to want to, it's much harder to do a reimbursement back to the neighborhood association because that involves income. So we're going to want to, as a city, figure out if there are additional procurement companies we can look at. So Dan, you're going to want to work with Emma as we get into the new year to see what new options we can put together.
We do have a local supplier that I think has already got a contract with the city.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I'm completely lost. You just started talking. What are you talking about? You waved something up in the air, but I couldn't understand what you were saying. You're saying you got some, you have another option to get a postcard? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't understand. You were waving it like.
Okay, here's what we send out now.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Okay, here's what we now can send out. Full color, full pictures on both sides for less the cost.
From whom?
From pamphlet, people that do all the.
Oh, from the paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
The main difference is the lead time necessary.
Three weeks instead of 1 week. But we can have a lot more information, and maybe we can put all the neighborhoods associations, say, we're interested in the vote downtown, it's coming up. Somebody else might be interested in something else, but we have just maybe one little line for each neighborhood association, so everybody knows what everybody's kind of talking about to get the whole city together. Did you understand that, Denise?
I got it now, that you explained it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Carla, Elyville.
We have a meeting next Tuesday at 7 PM. We're having CERT come and talk about, in case of a fire or a natural disaster on, an update. We also have recently, I'm not getting out a postcard just because I was scared about the funds. So I'm going to have to announce it on social media. The second person we're having is, PG&E on Warner Milne. They have an empty lot behind St. John the Apostle Cemetery towards Warner Milne, or on the side of it, I guess, depending on how you're looking at it. And then obviously there was a land use approved next to it called Camp Street Apartments. I don't know if that's even going through or going forward. But as of now, PG&E has a plan on something. I have no idea what it is, and they're presenting it to us. So I don't have any hints or anything, so I'm kind of eager to hear. Other than that, we did a park cleanup at, Oregon City Parks Foundation, Oregon City Watershed, Rivercrest Park, Rivercrest neighborhood, Elyville neighborhood. We did help get, take out invasives at Singer Creek Park. And other than that, I'm trying to think, we've spread seeds around, with approval of the city in certain parts, and private landowner and businesses, seeds of blue aster that are native to Oregon and like golden poppies. So that's exciting to see if they're going to come up. And Roger, do you have anything to add?
Well, it's just that, of course, most of you know, we have a planting on the south end by the VFW, the Parks Foundation does. But I'm sad to say that we had a nice, robust plant, and there's nothing but a hole there now. So we're losing plants there. So if anybody's walking around seeing stuff, let us know. Because we've had plants taken in the past too. And we're trying to decide whether to put more plants in there, but not if they're going to be vanishing. So it's sad. I know there's an ordinance against taking things out of the park, but.
Jeez. Okay, Hillendale, Josh?
Well, we do have next Tuesday, the county courthouse and Clackamas Progress Partners has invited us over there to the Development Services Building for a meeting to present their updates. So yeah, it's next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Other than that, I had to miss the last meeting, so I'll defer to Sarah.
In the beginning of April, we had our public meeting, and I thought we'd get some people going, but unfortunately, we didn't get a big turnout. It was the Abernathy Green presentation, and I really thought it would bring people out. But the golden nugget was the one person that showed up wants to be chair. So that was exciting. And as Josh mentioned, we have that meeting next week, and we've got postcards that went out to Hillendale, but we are also inviting our friends from Tower Vista via email. And I think that, tomorrow night, Madam Mayor, we are meeting for our steering committee at the Wild Hair Saloon, not salon, and at 6:30 for food, 7 for the meeting. If you care to join us, we'd love to have you.
So that's the second?
That's tomorrow, yes, 2nd. Yep.
McLaughlin, Denise?
We have a meeting this Thursday, which is May the 4th. There may or may not be Jedi. No, there will definitely be Jedi. Yes, there will be Jedi. I don't even remember what we're doing. I was so excited about it being May the 4th.
As we both look at Denise.
There's a presentation by the Housing Coalition of Clackamas County. They're going to come and do a very McLaughlin-specific oriented presentation. Not a presentation, but a discussion, because we already had the presentation. We have a neighbor that is coming to talk about possibly creating a community garden at the top of 6th and Jackson. And I think those are the two big things, our police liaison, fire liaison.
Right, and then the other thing I wanted to mention was some of us from Park Place, McLaughlin neighborhood went to the Homeless Solutions Coalition of Clackamas County meeting in April, and very fascinating, wonderful ideas. And then they invited the people from McLaughlin to neighborhood to stay and talk with them, and they heard some things that they hadn't realized before. So I think that was very helpful, and I'm glad that they're going to come talk to our meeting this. Okay. Anything?
No, yeah, same.
Hey, Steve with Park Place?
So the Park Place meeting, we'll have our general meeting on May 15th at 6:30 at the Park Place Church. We will have our annual election. It's so making up for lost time in COVID. Hopefully, we also will have CERT come and talk to us about evacuation and fire hazard. So, I don't have anything else. Oh,
I don't have it.
We were, had a lot of people watching the LUBA presentation hearing last week. So we'll see what happens with that.
That's in regard to the large development in the Park Place plan up there that's gone to LUBA. The the planning commission approved it, the city commission
overturned
it, and then they took it to LUBA, so it's in LUBA's hands now.
What does LUBA stand for?
Emily from Rivercrest.
Land Use Board of Appeals.
Thank you.
My pet peeve.
Emily, go ahead.
We had an extra meeting this spring to accommodate Carson from CERT, Emergency Response Team, and he came and spoke with us about the volunteer opportunities through their organization and the work that they do. And then Seth Henderson from Summit Development Group came and presented. We had about a dozen attendees, which is pretty consistent with what we've been having. And considering there was like a 2-year break, at least with COVID, we've been kind of happy with, at least 10 people each meeting. We met at Gardner again, and the staff there was really great. Sue's has been really wonderful to work with. So if anyone is looking for a meeting space for like presentations, they have a really nice presentation room when you first walk in on the right. And let's see, staff from PGE reached out to us about their new line station on Warner Milne, and we don't have it kind of in our routine to do another meeting this spring, but we'll be signal boosting the Elyville presentation with PGE so that the Rivercrest neighbors can find out about that as well. Our next event will be in July or August for the summer picnic, probably July, but yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Next would be Mayor McGriff.
Yes, thank you. I'll tell you what I've been up to and what the commission's been up to. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about the youth advisory. Are we calling it a commission or a council? I can never really, I call them a committee, but whatever. The Youth Advisory Committee, we formed that and we've had 2 meetings now. We have 15 fantastic students ranging from freshmen to seniors. And we will be meeting again on the 8th. We will be talking about their bylaws and also about a project they want to do. And I will tell you that basically, just to give you a general idea, they're talking about not only mental health, but they're talking about going and doing some presentations. And I know it's getting close to the end of the school year, but we can tee that up. Talking to the school board. They talked a lot the last 2 meetings about the things that they are encountering at school. And if, I don't know, a lot of people don't read the papers anymore, but in the last few weeks, there's been articles not only in the Oregonian, but the New York Times about some of the difficulties that the students are having. And I guess I'm flabbergasted that these students have reported to us things like that there are racist comments, sexual harassment, all kinds of stuff like that going on in the halls at our schools every single day. And some of the concerns they have is that there's no, what do I want to say? There's no consequences. They feel that there should be consequences for these things going on and people should be called out on it. But they feel that there isn't any support from the school board or from the administration. And I know some of you heard about what happened at West Sylvan Middle School, where 2 kids decided to do a George Floyd on a student, and nobody intervened. A student finally went and told a teacher, and then that happened. So it's just, I mean, obviously most of us didn't have to deal with stuff like that when we were in school. I mean, sure, there was the general heckling and all of that, but nothing to this extent. So they're very serious about this, and I'm looking forward to working with them on a project. So in other things, as Bob said, we've started budget season, and we had at least 6 different groups come and ask for additional monies beyond what the proposed budget is, and that number came up to $966,000 additional requests that everybody had. Somebody had their calculator, I didn't either. Did some hard math. It's obvious to all of us, I think, in the room that we don't have an ever-stretching dollar, and I am not sure how we are going to try to do all these things for everyone, and I don't have any answers. I'm still going through the budget myself. So it's, like I said, we're going to be going through department by department. The Metro Enhancement Committee will be meeting, and unfortunately I can't make the meeting on the 15th because that's where we will be working with that. In addition to our meeting this coming Wednesday, we have a meeting, James referred to it, we're going to be looking at the 4 applications that came in for the major events funding. I know that the Arts Commission had put out a solicitation for a little bit of money that they had for some projects, and I know that there's some people talking about doing some murals and fun things like that to enhance the community. I haven't seen the Metro Enhancement applications yet, so I can't really tell you at this point in time who has applied. They'll probably be coming out next week. Just very briefly, as I said earlier, half of everything I've been doing, it seems like for the last year, has involved tolling. So I'm attending, I attended the League of Oregon Cities Spring Conference in Seaside this past week, and that was one of the major topics of discussion, in addition to the issue with homelessness. I attend the Metropolitan Mayor's Consortium. We are going to be passing out a resolution and a letter going to the governor and to the legislature, asking them to basically cease and desist with this program. I'm getting, along with the mayor of West Lynn, getting lots of requests for interviews because, of course, it's controversial, and all the media, they like controversy and they like to keep the pot stirring. But we're basically, between the 2 cities, we are basically fighting for our lives at this point, is the way I describe it, and I'm not being dramatic about it. I really strongly feel that if this goes in and is implemented in the first place that they want it, which is on I-205, it is going to be extremely detrimental and devastating to our communities, both of our communities. I think there will be residual effects to the other communities that are within our wake, including Gladstone and Milwaukee, Canby, Tualatin, are all going to have some significant impact. We, again, as I stated earlier, are doing our very best to stay professional and continue to ask the very hard questions because people are paying attention. The good thing is that half the legislature that's in there this year are all new. So they were not a part of the 2017 ballot measure, the measure that passed in the Senate and the House. We do have some holdovers like Representative McLean, who I attended a session that she had along with Paul Edgar, And she was basically intransigent about, well, tolling is the greatest thing since sliced toast. I won't quote her, but that's basically what came out. Myself and the mayor of West Lynn, we took exception to that at the meeting, even though we handed in questions. So I've been doing a lot of that because I feel like we have to fight for our community, and if I have to do it on that level, then we will. The other thing, City Commission is going to be adopting their goals. We have 7 goals. We had 8 last year, and we had a great goal-setting session with the staff and some members of the public who came in to talk to us about that. We have not, because I'm sure you're going to ask the question, the city has not been asked at this point in time to take a position on the proposed, and I'm putting parentheses around it again, navigation center, because I've been told that it's not really a navigation center, but that's what they're calling it. So I said, well, if it's not a navigation center, then what is it? So I'm waiting for the answer on that. I have been attending as many of those meetings as I can. I'm not sure some of you are aware, but I worked with the McLaughlin neighborhood and the Father's Heart to put together a good neighbor agreement, which is only going to be enforceable by us. But so far we've been working through the issues that have come about because of the facility being there. And obviously, as you can well imagine, the neighborhood is people particularly who live along 12th, 14th, 13th in that area who, and the businesses that take the brunt of the incidents that happen there are just, well, they're kind of up to here. So I think that the Homeless Coalition folks are genuinely trying to understand what the neighborhood has been going through, but in reality, I think there is still a disconnect between wanting to feel empowered to help people, to move people from point A to point B, but when the doors close and you get the 2 o'clock in the morning screaming person, or the police cars come and the sirens are coming and you can't get a good night's sleep because of all the things that are going on, that's something I think that they don't understand. There is obviously trauma from homelessness, but I believe that the neighbors who are in that vicinity, in that immediate wake, are also traumatized as well. And it's very tough. There's no good answer. I think, as far as I know, there are no land use implications with this. I don't believe that there's any application that's going to go through. So people have asked me, well, when is the hearing happening so I can come and testify? And that just isn't that. But they don't own the property. They are still trying to raise money. We shall see. I would say that if you are interested, Google OPB. They did a segment on their Think Out Loud program about the facilities that the city of Salem has, and it's pretty amazing. They actually have a navigation center. They have places for people to navigate to after they leave the no barrier shelter. They have transitional housing. They have permanent housing. They have everything in place to make this facility that they just opened last week work. I'm still trying to understand, as I stated, if it's not a navigation center, I don't know what it exactly is. And so I'm trying to find out, just for my own benefit, of what this is supposed to be, let alone representing all of you. I was there at the meetings as a member of the McLaughlin neighborhood because I'm also up the street from it. But other than that, we have been, the staff has been working really hard and very diligently on the budget. We had a great celebration down at the end of the Oregon Trail this last Saturday, doing thanks to the planning department, Public Works, and the Parks Department. The peace tree from Hiroshima is down there. If you have a chance, where it is as you go past the Heritage Garden, it's all the way at the end, almost to where the old antique store used to be. So if you go in their parking lot, you'll be right there. The Friends of Trees event, since we were last here, was very successful. We got lots of trees planted in the city, and we'll be allocating some money again to work with them. Some of that money is funds in lieu of, so we'll continue to have a robust department. I don't know if you're aware, but there is a proposal to have someone who's got a forestry background in the budget. I don't know where that will fall out, but it's in there. A couple of other positions are in there as well, would do with parks maintenance. So there's a few new positions that have been accounted for, but there's still a lot of work ahead. And as Bob said, reading that budget it's not easy, but again, if we break it down and go through department by department, I think it'll be a little easier. And we can talk about each particular area. And then obviously, the last but not least, the ballots are out. Please be sure to vote on the 16th. However you're going to vote, it's still important. The voting part is the most important part, to vote. So, thank you.
In regard to the budget, know that each city department has a contingency fund, and that amounts to millions and millions and millions of dollars. Yes, it is. You look at it, you add them up.
Together, yes.
You add them up, it's millions and millions of dollars. Is there a rule that contingency funds need to be a certain percentage of the budget? Or is there a rhyme or reason?
I believe there is. Mr. Zook was kind of explaining that at the meeting. I can't give you the exact answer because finance is not my, I need to know enough to understand what we're doing, but yes.
I know enough to be really, really dangerous.
Yes, and I've heard that about you. I've seen your wanted posters at Steve's Market, and they know where you are, so that's okay. But yes, the city's also required to have a contingency, and I think Mr. Zook was explaining what that percentage is, and we're right. So let's say, we're supposed to have 7%. We've got that. And we have auditing and things that we have to go through. There's finance, and the state of Oregon's budget laws require that there be so much, and I can't tell you the percentage, it has to be in contingency. It's your fallback.
Well, I'd be curious if it's a law or a guidance.
It's the budget law, yes.
Okay.
But I will ask Mr. Zook to tell me exactly what the number is so I can get that to you, because I don't know that. I leave all those specific details to them. But I'm making a note.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Some questions?
Yes, Dan.
Consultants, can we cut down on how much we're spending for consultants and attorney fees?
Well, the attorneys are not consultants. They are part of the administration for...
No, I'm considering the consultants, and then we're getting sued a lot, the attorneys being a separate.
Yeah, well, we're going to LUBA right now because we didn't agree with an applicant's situation. So we have to defend ourselves, and our attorneys filed their reply in the brief in the LUBA case. We actually haven't had that too many land use cases go to LUBA in the last couple of years, which has been good, but it is a big sucking sound, I will agree, but we kind of have to be there.
Thank you.
At least for the attorney part. Now, the consultants, depending on what we're doing, I will be honest with you, to the point, I can't say the percentage, but give you an example. All the work that we're doing on the I-205 tolling responses is directly coming from our staff. So while they're responding to that, which is, as I said, fighting for our lives, we're not getting some other things done. That doesn't mean we're hiring a consultant. That just means we're not getting some other things done because this is really critical. It's going to, as I said, it's going to substantially impact us. It is important that we stay in that. Now, West Lynn doesn't have the staff that we do, and they had to hire a consultant to respond to the state's request for information. So I'm grateful that we're not doing that. But they also have hired a lobbyist to help them with their water line situation. Again, we are not doing that. I should mention, on the good note, South Fork Water Board, as you know, we own the water district jointly with the city of West Lynn. It looks like the Water and Environmental Services folks are going to be putting a pipe under the new bridge. And apparently, I'm hoping, I got this correct, that they're going to allow for it to be lined so that it can be used temporarily as a water line. So West Lynn might not be in such dire straits as we thought they might be. So that was really, really good news because, as you know, ODOT said, gee, we're having to take your water pipe off. Too bad, so sad, you're paying for the whole thing. So that was at least some good news. And we have a South Fork Water Board meeting, I believe, coming up in a couple of weeks, which I hope that will be confirmed. So that's good for us, because I asked our director, I said, okay, so if West Lynn disconnects, that means we're not getting that revenue from the city of West Lynn's providers. That revenue will have to go to Tigard, whoever they have to hook up to over here. So what is our contingency? What are we doing to make up for the loss of funds? So if they do not have to go hook up to Lake Oswego Tigard Water District, that means our budget for South Fork is still going to remain whole. We're not going to be in a deficit because we're not missing the revenue that we should have been getting from West Lynn citizens anyway. So that was at least good news. But we're going through the budget process for South Fork as well.
Carla?
I'm gonna go really fast and just make a couple statements, and I don't expect.
Is it a statement or is it a question for me?
Statements, and then I'm just gonna leave it with you because I know you have a lot going on.
Well, we
and
all
so
do.
I know, but I know that you're getting a lot of questions and you're dealing a lot with ODOT. So a couple things came up for me
They're
while
my
you were.
best friends now.
About, the transfer center for Oregon City is, what I brought a suggestion as
You mean
well.
Metro South?
Yeah, is, the homeless transfer station that's possibly,
The quote-unquote navigation center.
Right,
Okay.
I have mentioned to them the biggest concern I have, I've mentioned 15 other things at least, but is the fact that other cities won't be dealing with their homeless issue and dropping them off here. So I've mentioned that as a concern and that I'd really want that addressed.
We've already discussed that because our chief has made me very aware of other cities who drop them off here. So we know who they are.
Yeah, and then the schools, you're mentioning depression. One thing that I've seen also is obviously the drug use, and I've seen that personally as well. And then the vaping, and I wish the county would have mental health, because we're outsourcing it right now from Washington County. So I wish Clackamas County would address mental health to a degree, because part of it is we need counselors available for substance abuse, which is a huge problem, which is contributing to mental health for schools. The other thing is we were talking about ODOT and the Oregon City Bridge. Remember when we shut that down not too long ago, how it impacted our businesses downtown alone? And that would be a great example to bring up to ODOT now, with them wanting to obviously charge us a toll. The last thing is, and this could be addressed over time because I'm just bringing it up, Hilltop Church, with our famous trouble for me as a neighbor, Hilltop Church and Mike Cross is having people camp outside his church on Malala Avenue. I know I have a great neighbor who called into code enforcement and complained about it, but I just wanted to make you aware of what's going on, and I'm sure you maybe already know, but it's quite a problem. They're starting to sleep outside right out front on Malala Avenue. So.
Tell me which one again is Hilltop Church?
It's right across from Tacho's. And that's run by Mike Cross.
Is that the one where they keep having the ongoing $3 clothing sales?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
all right.
signs, and it's free on the outside, which is, it's a great sobriety program, but there's a lot of pedophiles. So, thank you.
Okay, well, I was running up and down there this last weekend. I mean, late night Dairy Queen run, and then I ran up to Safeway. I didn't see anybody sleeping out there. Is in the back?
One of our mutual famous neighbors we know caught them in a tent, and this person reported it. So
Okay, all right,
trying.
I'll check in with you.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? I drive that street 4 times a day, going to and from here, multiple times, and I have, as of this morning, saw 2 tents outside.
Saw 2 tents?
Yes, and I saw the pastor, who I know because I go to that clothing sale. I bought this dress here. I saw him speaking with the people in front, and I am not quite sure as to what that was accomplishing. Just wanted to say, I did see it.
All right, got it.
He does run multiple houses, sobriety houses, he calls them. From what I've seen, they're not sober, and they're within our neighborhoods, and technically, he can now probably legally open them, but he was supposed to run it against our city. So, and I don't call them Oxford houses, because they're really not, so just to let you know.
Okay, to let everybody know, I am working to try to get another presentation from the Grand Ronde tribe for us. So look forward to that, hopefully in the near future.
We're still waiting for them to come to the commission.
Yeah, they don't seem to be as responsive to me as they used to be, but
They're a little
I've got a
overwhelmed right
little
now.
bulldog in me, so they're not gonna, they're gonna have to listen to me. And they like us anyway, so what the hell? This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.